Hi everybody, I'm Peter, and I've spent the last 6 or 7 years living at two intentional communities in Ecuador, Terra Frutis and Fruit Haven Eco Village, which you can check out at their respective websites, terrafruitis.com and fruithaven.org. And I'm going to talk about kicking people out of the community, right? If you're looking to start an intentional community or join an intentional community, you might be thinking, well, what are the most important things about a community? Where do they find their land, how the land ownership works, what the community bylaws are, things like that. No. The most important thing is actually kicking people out of the community. If you can't kick people out when it's required, then you're going to have a really crappy community. No one's going to enjoy living there, and no one's going to stay at your community. So your community is going to stay really small for a really long time. If you want your community to grow, you've got to learn to kick people out. First, I'm going to talk about the most common reasons why we kick somebody out of a community. Then I'm going to talk about red flags, or how you can detect someone might be problematic when they first show up, so then you can judge them and maybe kick them out later. Some of the reasons that we kick people out of a community are they're really, really messy. They leave messes everywhere. In the case of a fruit-based community such as ours, they're often leaving boxes of fruits lying, rotting around the house. They don't take good care of their things or other people's things. They destroy property unintentionally by letting it get damaged or rotting, right? Really, really messy people who just can't take care of their things or sometimes themselves. Drug problems are a common one. Some people just can't stop constantly doing drugs all the time, right? I know some people are like, marijuana is not a drug, or LSD is not a drug. Anything that you are constantly doing and is affecting your life in a negative way, we're going to call it a drug and we're going to kick you out for it. So there have been people who come who just obsess on taking San Pedro constantly every week and are constantly spending all this time preparing it and talking about it and trying to get their hand on any hallucinogen they can, and it's really just a big part of their life, right? So what do? You kick them out. Assuming your community doesn't want that around, which I think most reasonable communities don't want people high all the time. Stealing, that's another common reason that people get kicked out. Now, not that it's happened that much here, but there have been some minor theft issues that people have gotten kicked out from before. In my experience, most of the issues has not been like people stealing large amounts of money or an iPhone. It's been like people stealing little things over a longer period of time and being totally okay with it and then lying about it when confronted about it. People stealing others' food, for example. We've kicked out a few people for that reason. Another common reason people get kicked out, mental health issues or childish behavior, right? You might be thinking, well, if somebody has a mental health issue, that's not fair. The community should heal them. Well, yeah, of course, the community should try to heal them. But the community should also realize that it's not a mental hospital. So if somebody has a serious problem that's negatively affecting the life around them, perhaps that person should go to a place where they can receive proper professional help. Oftentimes a forming intentional community is no place for somebody like that. They can't get the support that they need. So it ends up just making everyone else suffer. And obviously childish behavior, like somebody who can't deal with their problems with others. I remember there was a grown adult woman who kept asking me and sending me emails to help her deal with problems with other people as if I was her father or something, and it was really strange. Like, could you please talk to this person about this thing they've been doing that's bothering me? And I was like, no, please stop sending me these emails. Why are you doing this? Why can't you talk with them yourself? So somebody like that, you kick them out. Another thing which is just more general and can encompass all of these things, someone who's unpleasant to live around, somebody who makes life unpleasant for other people in a significant way, so much so that people leave because of them. Right, now this is a really important one. If people in your community are thinking about leaving mainly because of this one person, that's a very clear sign that no matter what your misgivings are, you should probably think about kicking that person out. Now, after hearing this list, you might think, well, this is horrible and heartless. Why don't you give those people a second chance? Well, why did you think that we don't? Of course, we give people a second chance. Sometimes we give them a third and fourth chance. Sometimes fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, and 10th chance. But it always gets to a point where we've given them enough chances and many, many months and even probation periods. And I don't recommend being that lenient on most people. Some people, they do something wrong once or twice, and it's a bad enough thing that you ask them to leave. Somebody who shows up and and this has happened, who's just a full-on schizophrenic, they show up wearing a monk's robe and ranting and raving about all this crazy conspiracy stuff, like the government's coming to kill them, and randomly yelling and shouting at people all day long. Somebody like that, we're going to kick out literally the next day, right? somebody like some 19-year-old, 18-year-old guy who shows up and just moved out of his parents' house and can't take care of himself and doesn't know how to clean, we're going to give him a number of chances and ask him to try to take care of himself better and respect other people's items and respect the community living spaces and this and that. And if he keeps screwing up over and over again, and if we're still cleaning up after him 6 months later, kick him out. So you should always give people chances, but you shouldn't give people too many chances. Now I'm going to talk about the red flags, right? This is very judgmental and bad. So this is when you all this is that when you see certain characteristics of people, you might think, okay, there's a chance this person might be problematic because we've had people in the past with these characteristics that have been very problematic. So basically, liberals, ex-military, people who are getting money from their parents and or are bad with money, like people who have never had to work for money in their lives, they just get allowance from the parents every month. People who are really old but have nothing. So I know this is judgmental, but somebody who's really old but has no life savings, no family, nothing. So then it's like, what have they done their entire life that has resulted in absolutely nothing? There's a good chance that there's also nothing they can provide to your community. Also, people who are really young, in general, people who are really young and really old in general. Which is not to say that everyone who is really old and really young is bad. It's not to say that everyone who is ex-military or gets money from their parents is bad. Everyone who is a liberal is bad, of course, but all those other people, you shouldn't automatically judge that they're bad because of those characteristics. There's just a higher chance that you're going to have problems with them. Because there are really, really young people that come to these communities that are great. There are other really young people who just move out of their parents' house and they come here and they're just a total mess and they just can't do it here, right? And we've had old people who are absolutely great, and we've had old people who are recovering alcoholics and just keep going back off the wagon over and over again and getting worse and worse, and we kick them out. It's just so that we've had a lot of problems with really young and really old people and not so many problems with people in ages in between. It's not ageist to say that. That's just the way it is. Same thing with those other characteristics. So I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope now you understand a little bit more of the importance of kicking people out of your community. If you're starting a community or you're in a community, make sure you kick people out. Have a nice day. Actually, there's one more thing I forgot to say. Not every community is going to have the same strictness of standards, right? Some communities are going to kick lots and lots of people out because they set their bar for quality people very, very high. Other communities are going to barely kick anybody out because they set their bar really, really low, right? You got to find a balance somewhere. Obviously, you want a lot of people. You might think, oh, I want a lot of people in my community, and I'm very tolerant, so I'm not going to kick out people that have these problems. I'm going to let them stay for a long time, and we'll try to heal them. We'll have community meetings and do spiritual healing sessions, and it's going to be great, right? It might end up backfiring because you might end up having this issue where you can never achieve a critical mass of people in your community because everyone who comes leaves within 3 to 6 months because there's all these problems there with all the people that you don't want to kick out. And I've seen that happen to other communities. So you don't want that. You don't want that to happen to you. So if you do choose the route of lowering the bar and being more accepting and just letting a lot of people with all kinds of problems stay, it's got to be done in such a way that a whole bunch of other people aren't leaving because of that. So you might get a really, really big community really fast, and then it might just plummet and fail because you don't kick out the people that are stealing from other people, for example. So you got to think about that, where you're gonna strike the balance in between kicking everybody out of the community and having only yourself because you're the only cool person that exists, or not kicking anybody out and there's just guys running around in acid all day, tripping balls constantly, and people stealing food from other people, and constant drama fests, like the place just a constant drama fest with hours-long community meetings every week and people hashing out their problems and having NVC workshops and just a total shit show. You can have that if you want, but I think it's better to strike a balance somewhere in between. Have a nice day, everybody.